Hey everybody. So today I just wanted to do a quick video on how you can create multilingual LabVIEW applications. So just kind of as a precursor to this, there are a whole bunch of different toolkits available out there for creating multilingual applications already. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. So there's kind of a mixed bag. But after having looked into a bunch of them, they're all basically working using the same thing that I'm about to show. So, if you want to create your own way to create kind of multilingual applications, this would be how you do that. And yeah, this is pretty much what I've seen from all of these other toolkits that are available out there. So, we have this front panel, right? We've kind of created maybe a message field. We could have as many controls and indicators on here as we want. The thing we run into is maybe we have operators that speak different languages, or we could even have multiple facilities that are running this software where we want to be able to easily switch between languages so that everyone can use the language that they know and are familiar with, and they don't have to kind of memorize how to work your software in a language that they don't necessarily know. First, kind of as a precursor, if you want to be able to change like the text up here, you don't ever want to use labels. So labels are kind of permanent. You can't update a label programmatically. So like if I go to visible items, I can see that this is a label. Now I can label this whatever I want, and then that way I can reference it in my code through that. But if you want to be able to change this text up here, you want to make sure that you're not showing the label and instead that you are showing the caption. So captions can be updated programmatically. So we can kind of on the fly change this text to whatever, but a label cannot be changed. So you'll want to make sure you label everything however you want it to be labeled, where you link stuff in like event structures and whatnot. But make sure that you hide that label and then show the caption. Also, Boolean text. We have an off and an on. That can be written to programmatically, so you can use that or not depending on your application. In this case, we have Boolean text in this button. It's shown, and I'm going to show you how we can read and write to that. So yeah, just make sure that you're not using labels, that you're using captions, but you will want to set up your labels to be however you want to reference that in your code. So let's take a little look now at how we can kind of do this. So I have just these radio buttons between 3 different languages, so English, Spanish, French. You can realistically have any amount of languages and use what makes sense. And I wouldn't just map languages just to map languages. Map what's actually going to get used. But essentially we can create a dictionary of basically text in all these different languages. So in this example, I'm using a case structure and just I have everything set up as constants. Now for this demo, I set it up like that, but in a real application, you're probably not going to have a whole bunch of constants, especially if you have a ton of different controls on the front panel. You're not going to want just a million constants, in all the languages that you want to be able to switch from. So the most common way to do this is going to be with config files. So you're going to set up a file and you're going to just store this text in the config file. So that way, if I select English, I can go pull this, what to include here and here in English, message, etc. So you just need some, and the format of that is really up to you, right? I like JSON because it's really easy. I can set up a cluster and set that up to be a type def that can, stores all of this information that I want, and I can just have a separate cluster in my JSON for each language, and it makes it super easy. So I like JSON. You could do INI files. You could do some sort of XML. You can do just plain text. It's really up to you how you store that. But yeah, I do recommend you take this text and store it in some sort of config file. If you don't have much on the UI, like this, for example, you can even do something like this. You don't necessarily have to store it in a config file. You can just have a case structure and have everything as constants, and that works fine as well. So yeah, let's run this. We get our everything in English. And don't be too hard on the other languages. I kind of use some translating tools to get these other things in other languages. So we can see now our message now says mensaje. Our message that before said ready to start testing now says listo para comenzar las pruebas. Where it said stop now says alto. Same up here. And likewise, I can switch to French. And I get this, and here. So one thing to be cautious of is that Unicode is not officially supported in LabVIEW. It does kind of work, but it's not officially supported. So if you're using languages that are very much so Unicode, you may have mixed results. There are different Unicode libraries out there that you can leverage as well to kind of get a little bit more consistency there. But yeah, that's basically the idea, right? Is have a way, maybe there's some setting in the software where users can select the language they want, or it could even be a config file. And then you're just altering the properties of those controls. So messages that are shown to the users, and captions, Boolean text, stuff like that. So, if you had a graph, you could be updating the X and Y axis labels as well, stuff like that. So there's certain properties that you can kind of on the fly write. And the idea is, right, we just need to basically define what that text is going to be for all of those things that we want to update and store that somewhere. So in this case, it's in a constant, but we also can store that in a config file. And as things get switched, we can just read all the strings from the config file and update all of our front panel stuff. So yeah, not necessarily a toolkit, but that's really how we can handle multilingual applications in LabVIEW. And like I said, there are toolkits out there for handling multilingual applications. But from what from me looking into what is out there, basically what I've seen is that they are this, right? More or less, right? We're just taking a whole bunch of strings for the different languages, storing them in a config file, and then pulling them out. So yeah, that would be how you can create multilingual applications in LabVIEW. Thanks for watching.
Canon Controls is your gateway to mastering LabVIEW. Dive into programming for data acquisition, industrial communications, and manufacturing automation. Explore how to enhance your projects with cybersecurity best practices. Join the journey to elevate your skills and secure your systems with every episode.